And we're going live on Facebook.
We're streaming live on Facebook.
Yes, we are right now. Hello, everyone. This is Dr. Roger Paul. And tonight we're going to continue our study on paper 39. We're in section 1. The page number in the original book is 428.7. We're in section 39, 1, paragraph 13. It's labeled For the Teaching Counselors, so everybody knows where we're at, right? Okay, here we go. Let's say a little prayer and we'll get started. Father, thank you for bringing us together tonight that we might share your wonderful revelation. Thank you for this opportunity to study and learn. We thank you for these friends that come and listen to us every night and those at home that listen to us over Facebook and YouTube and Vimeo and all the different platforms. Thank you for their participation. Thank you for allowing them to understand that they might be prepared for the mansion worlds. When we all get there, we'll be laughing about this one of these days, I hope. We thank you. We give you the praise in your son, Michael, Jesus of Nazareth. Amen.
Amen.
Hey,
Amen.
hey, Ledge.
Hey,
All right. The teaching counselors. Gary, would you like to start us out tonight?
Let's see what I get. Got my computer fixed. There I am. And this is the reward I get for getting logged in. Oh my gosh.
That's right. You're the first
Hold on,
one up,
okay,
so
ready?
you're the first one to read. Yep, ready.
Okay, number 4, the teaching counselors. These angels are the invaluable assistants to the spiritual teaching cores of the local universe. Teaching counselors are secretaries to all orders of teachers from the
Melchizedeks.
Melchizedeks and the Trinity Teacher Sons down to the Morontia mortals who are assigned as helpers to those of their kind who are just behind them in the scale of ascendant life. You will first see these associate teachings Seraphim on some one of the 7 mansioned worlds surrounding Jerusalem.
So, okay, so these teaching counselors not only help the teachers like the Melchizedeks and the Trinity Teacher Sons when we get to the local universe capital, but they also help us when we get to the 7 mansion worlds and we have to teach those that come behind us, right? So they don't just throw us out there cold and say, well, you have to do it, right? They have these Seraphim that help us to learn and help us to be able to teach each other and that sort of thing. So we'll see them in the mansion worlds. All right.
I got a question.
Yeah.
so do I.
Teaching, let me see where I can find this, okay?
Go ahead.
Are assigned to helpers of those of their kind who are just behind them in the scale of ascendant life. So that could they be helping you help us?
Yes, they can. But we don't know it, but they could be helping us right now. They could be helping me teach you, right?
That's what I was saying, yeah.
Yeah, that's what these teaching counselors do. And they start out on the system, on the local universe headquarters, and they go all the way down to the planets. You know, really they do most of their work in the mansion worlds, but all these teachers that we see online teaching the book like me, they may be helping them do their jobs too, because it's a pretty weighty responsibility to try to make sense out of the book and try to relate it to someone else. It's pretty complicated. You know, really a paper like this is really complicated when you get 7 different levels and you get 7 sub-levels under each level, you know, because it becomes confusing. And to try to relate it so that it's understandable is quite difficult. It really is. So what was your question, Rodney?
Well, I'm just curious. When we become conscious, when we wake on the first mansion world, which will be the first angel we encounter?
are guardian angels, both guardian angels, one on the right, one on the left. Yeah.
So
when
they'll
we
be
wake up.
right there.
Right there to greet us. Right. The guardian angels will be the first beings to greet us when we wake up. Right. Because they know us best, right? They've gone through life with us. So they're there to make us feel comfortable. And that's why they put out a broadcast too, Rodney. When you're going to arrive on the mansion world, you know, they got 3 days. They say 3 periods, right? And you could take that as 3 mansion world days, which would be 18 of our days, or you could take that as world days, which would be 3 exact days. You know, I mean, really, it's open to interpretation. But during that period of time, a broadcast goes out to everyone that's local on that particular mansion world that you will be awakening on such and such location at such and such time, so that your family can be there to greet you, right? So,
Interesting.
yeah. So system works pretty good. So Rodney, would you take the next one for us, please?
Yes, of course. These seraphim become associates of the division chiefs of the numerous educational and training institutions of the local universes. And they are attached in large numbers to the faculties of the 7 training worlds of the local systems and of the 70 educational spheres of the constellations. These ministrations extend on down to the individual worlds. Even the true and the consecrated teachers of time are assisted and often attended by these counselors of the Supreme Seraphim.
So that tells us they even help us, don't they? Right? All the way down to the planets. All right. And I'll read the next paragraph since it's one sentence. The 4th creature bestowal of the Creator Son was in the likeness of a teaching counselor of the Supreme Seraphim of Nebadon. Remember that his 4th bestowal was as a teaching seraphim, right? Which is an interesting choice for him to make.
Very humble.
Yeah.
Yes, it is.
Right. Yeah. So we know that there's large numbers of these beings on the 7 training worlds, but they're all the way up to the local universe capital. All right. 5 directors of assignment. Jane, how you doing tonight? You want to take the next one?
Sure. 5 directors of assignment. A body of 144 supreme seraphim is elected from time to time by the angels, serving on the evolutionary and on the architectural spheres of creature habitation. This is the highest angelic council on any sphere, and it coordinates the self-directed phases of seraphic services and assignments. These angels preside over all seraphic assemblies pertaining to the line of duty or the call to worship.
Okay, so these angels really are in charge of the call to worship, and this will be our first opportunity when we get to the mansion world to experience what real worship is, right? So these seraphim will be leading this worship or directing this worship when we get there. You know? So it's pretty important. It's the highest thing we do, right? Most important thing we do. All right. The recorders. Letch, would you take the next one, please?
Okay. The recorders. These are the official recorders for the Supreme Seraphim. Many of these high angels were born with their gifts fully developed. Others have qualified for their positions of trust and responsibility by diligent application to study and faithful performance of similar duties while attached to lower or less responsible orders.
Okay, so we had two different types of classes of these types of beings, right? on the recorders. First, there's the recorders that are created recorders. So they are created perfectly as recorders. They come out of the box ready to do their job. But others have been trained and earned the responsibility, earned the right to become recorders. So you have two different classes of recorders, you know. So apparently it's a sought after position and is very, very important. You know, now what are they talking about recorders? Do y'all remember? Everything that happens is recorded, right? Both in our lives and in the universes at large and the worlds at large. Everything of any import is recorded in one way or another, right? And this is what these angels do. All right. Okay. I think my wife is here. Is my wife here? Diane, you want to take the next one?
Sure. 7, unattached ministers. Large numbers of unattached seraphim of the supreme order are self-directed servers on the architectural spheres and on the inhabited planets. Such ministers voluntarily meet the differential of demand for the service of the supreme seraphim, thus constituting the general reserve of this order.
So the unattached ministers are available as reserves, and they can fill in any one of these seraphic positions if they need to, right? So that's why they're considered the reserve, right? So if, for instance, they need an extra seraphim in the recorders, or they need an extra seraphim as teachers, or whatever, these beings will step in and take that position.
Very versatile.
Very versatile, right? Okay, superior seraphim. That doesn't mean they're superior to anybody else, but that's just what they call them, right? All right. Back to you, Gary.
Okay, superior seraphim received their name not because they are in any sense qualifiedly superior to the other orders of angels, but because they are in charge of the highest activities of a local universe.
Higher activities, not the highest.
Higher activities. Very many of these of the first two groups of these seraphic cores are attachments,
Attainment
excuse
seraphim. Yeah.
Angels who have served in all phases of training and have returned to the glorified assignment as directors of their kind in the spheres of their earlier activities. Being a young universe, Nebadon does not have many of these orders.
Okay, so what they're talking about is the attainment seraphim are those who have served in all 7 types of angels, right? And many of them have gone on all the way to paradise and embraced by the Son, and then they come back just like phenoliders do, and they serve as superior seraphim in all these different positions, right? All right. So, but it says that Nebadon does not have many of this order because we've not been around very long, right? Go ahead, Gary.
These seraphim, are they ascending? Are they us ascending? Are these
No, they're not
angelic
us.
beings that, huh?
They're angelic beings that are ascending themselves. Okay. Now there's 2 ways they can do this. Remember, they can go through the ascension plan through service and the different types of service they have as seraphim, or their surefire way to do it is to become a guardian seraphim. And that's what most of them want to do, because they want to start at the very bottom for experience and go all the way to the top. So many of these superior seraphim have gone all the way to paradise, but they still want to come back and become a guardian seraphim so that they can experience the very lowest type of life, and that assures them the pathway to paradise. Okay.
Now, these are not ascending beings. They are, I don't know what the other word to angelic.
They're angelic beings. They're not the same as descending sons of God, right?
Okay.
Descending son, yeah, they're a different type of entity. They're angelic beings created by the infinite spirit or the local universe, mother spirit in this case, right? They're angelic beings. They're not like the sons of God. right? The sons
All
of
right.
God are more like us. They're created for specific positions, and they descend down to help humans, right, on the ascension plan. But the angelic core descends down to help man as a different type of being altogether. So we can't think of and the angelic core, especially the guardian seraphim, as being just like us. Even though they're just above us many times, they're just a little bit higher than we are many times, but you wouldn't consider them like the descending core of the local universe, like you would the sons of God, like the Verandadeks, the Lenonondeks, the Adam and Eves, and the life carriers, right? Plus the midwayers. We can't forget the midwayers in that either. The midwayers being the lowest type of being outside of us, which we are the lowest type of being, right? Makes us feel really good, right? Being the bottom of the totem pole. Okay,
At least you're not pond scum, so.
that's right. I'll take this half sentence here, and then Rodney can take the next. The superior seraphim function in the following 7 groups. It's going to break down all 7 groups of the superior seraphim. Can't keep my tongue straight. Rodney, would you take the next one?
And your tongue tangled?
My tangled. That's right.
I've got a question.
Go ahead. We charge
First-
extra for questions on Thursday night, though, right? Is this Tuesday night?
I
This
don't know.
Thursday night.
It is.
To
Tuesday night.
our superior seraphim, are they supreme seraphim that have gone to paradise, been embraced back?
No, superior seraphim are created as superior seraphim, right?
Okay.
Okay, just like the other 7 levels. Okay, so the superior seraphim, it's hard to keep this straight because you got the seven layers, levels of seraphim, and then we got the 7 sub-levels within those 7 levels, right? But the main levels are all created originally as those types of beings that are one of these 7. Make sense?
Makes sense.
So if they're a superior seraphim and they're created in the intelligence core, then they were created for the intelligence core. But they can grow and learn and train and be part of any of the other cores, right?
Okay, thank you. Number 1, the
Yes.
intelligence core. These seraphim belong to the personal staff of Gabriel, the brightening morning star. They range the local universe, gathering the information of the realms for his guidance in the councils of Nebadon. They are the intelligence core of the mighty host over which Gabriel presides as vice-gerent of the Master's Son. These seraphim are not directly affiliated with either the systems or the constellations, and their information pours in direct to Salvington upon a continuous, direct, and independent circuit.
Okay, remember one of the circuits, 7 circuits of the local universe is the intelligence circuit, right? And this is the circuits that the intelligence core. Now remember, this is the very first subdivision of the superior seraphim, right? And just like the seraphim we just studied in the last section, they start to break it down at the top. So the superior seraphim of the intelligence core is associated with Gabriel and Salvington, right? Now remember, let's go back up here. I want y'all to get this in your brain so that it makes sense to you. Remember the supreme seraphim, the very first one of the supreme, well, the supreme seraphim, right? The supreme seraphim are closely associated, it says here, with, it's hard to even read this, isn't it?
The Sun Spirit.
The seraphic core of completion. All right. So that's the highest level, and that would be the super universe level, right? So they start at the top. The superior seraphim report to Salvington. You'll notice each one of these goes down the hierarchy of the universe, right? So the next one would report to the constellation. The next one would report to the system headquarters, and then you'd have the planetary helpers, okay? Remember that, because each one of these subdivisions will do the same thing, right? Okay, now I'm lost myself. Okay, so the superior seraphim, the intelligent core, what does it say here? They aren't associated with the constellation, are they? And they aren't associated with the lower planets. They are associated with Salvington. You see that? Because they're the first one of the 7 on the list. So here's a picture of them. They're the intelligence core, and you'll see here, it shows the seraphim, and the information they get goes directly to Gabriel.
Roger.
Yeah.
The information, okay, this circuit comes from paradise?
No, it's a local circuit. It comes from Salvington. Yeah.
Just between?
Yeah, just in Salvington. So it starts in Salvington and it goes out to all 10,000 or 10 million planets, right? Well, we don't have that many yet. It's about 330,000 planets so far. But eventually, yeah, but it's originating in Salvington, and this circuit would originate with whom? The local universe mother spirit, right?
Yes.
Isn't she in charge of all the circuits in the local universe?
Yeah.
Right. Okay. So this would be just a local universe circuit. Okay. Now, there is an intelligent circuit that goes from Paradise and Uversa down to the local universes, right? But it's a separate circuit. That circuit would go over whom? The infinite spirit, right?
Okay.
Makes sense?
Mm-hmm.
Okay. So we're talking about a local universe, so it would be a local universe circuit. Let me show you a picture down here. I don't want to get you too confused, but so you understand what we're talking about, what the circuits are here. Here's the 3, almost swap these out. I almost had 7 local universe circuits while ago, didn't I? Here are the 3 local universe circuits. We have the bestowal spirit of the Paradise Sons, the comforter, right? The spirit of truth. This is Michael's circuit, right? Then we have the circuit of the divine ministers. This is the Holy Spirit, right? Remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And then there's the intelligent ministry circuit of the local universe, and this includes the 7 adjutant mind spirits. Okay. Now let's go back up here to the 7 super universe circuits, and you'll see here the very first one is what? The unifying intelligent circuit of one of the 7 master spirits of paradise. Such a cosmic mind circuit is limited to a single super universe, right? So this would be the intelligent circuit of the super universe. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
So this intelligent circuit, who do you think it would be in touch with all the time? One of the universe mother spirit, right?
Oh.
Right? Because she is the intelligence, right? And that would be controlled by her, but all information of that would come into whom? Gabriel, right? because all the intelligence goes to Gabriel because he is the vicegerent of Michael. Make sense?
Mm-hmm.
I just confused okay.
That makes
Then
sense.
Yeah, okay. So then we have the other of the 7 circuits, you know, the physical circuits, the broadcast circuits, and everything else. We won't talk about those right now. But I wanted y'all to keep the connection of where these circuits they're talking about, right?
Okay,
All right. Did I confuse you or did I make it a little clearer?
good.
Here.
All right. All right. So there's the intelligent circuits that reports to Gabriel. Okay. Well, let's keep going. Jane, I think you're up next.
The intelligence core of the various local universes can and do intercommunicate, but only within a given super universe. There is a differential of energy which effectively segregates the business and transactions of the various super governments. One super universe can ordinarily communicate with another super universe only through the provisions and facilities of the Paradise Clearinghouse.
And where do you think that goes through? The 7 master spirits.
Master spirits.
Right. Master spirit for each of the 7 super universes. Okay, but it says here that the various local universes can and do intercommunicate with each other in a super universe, right? But there is a difference, it's called a differential of energy. So the energy from one local universe to another is segregated from each other, okay? So the circuit of intelligence that would go back to Gabriel and be controlled by the local universe mother spirit would be contained within that local universe. But they allow intercommunication from one local universe to another. But it would have to go through what? The clearinghouse, which would be who? Gabriel, right? Make sense? Okay, very complicated, but it makes sense, right?
Then I
All
would go
right.
our Gabriel to a Gabriel of another local universe.
You got it. You got
And
it.
then
In other words, they wouldn't just willy-nilly start talking to each other back and forth across the local universes, because there's a buffer between the local universes, right? And this
understood.
buffer you wouldn't be able to see, because many of the local universes, many of the planets almost overlap in the way they're set up, right? But there is that circuit buffer between them, okay? If you can imagine that. Okay, number 2, the second level, the voices of mercy. Letch, would you take the next one?
Yeah, the voice of mercy. Mercy is the keynote of Seraphic service and angelic ministry. It is therefore fitting that there should be a corps of angels who, in a special manner, portray mercy. These seraphim are the real mercy ministers of the local universes. They are the inspired leaders who foster the higher impulses and holier emotions of men and angels. The directors of these legions are now always completion seraphim, who are also graduate guardians of mortal destiny. That is, each angelic pair has guided at least one soul of animal origin during the life in the flesh, and has subsequently traversed the circles of Seraphington and has been mustered into the Seraphic core of completion.
Now, do y'all remember what the Seraphic course of completion is?
I don't understand what.
I'm getting feedback from something, I don't know what. Okay, do y'all remember what the Seraphic core completion is? That's like finalators, right? In other words, these angels have gone all the way to paradise, all the way through Seraphington onto paradise, been embraced, and come back for service, right? And they have been mustered into the Seraphic core completion, which is like the finaliters for human beings. Okay. And so that means that each one of these pair has guided at least one human being, one person that says one soul of animal origin all the way through, and they have gone all the way to Seraphington and become part of the Seraphic core completion. This qualifies them to be part of the voice of mercy. Okay. Why do you think that is? Because they have to learn to be merciful to whoever it is they have in pairs been assigned to and gone all the way to paradise with this person, right? So they've seen this person go through the highs and lows and goods and bads and the ugly of everything they did, right? And so that's what gives them experience to be merciful, right? They have to have a lot of patience, right?
Sure.
Right, so that's the voices of mercy. All right, let's go on to the next one. Diane, can you take the next one, please?
3 spirit coordinators. The third group of superior seraphim are based on Salvington, but function in the local universe anywhere they can be fruitful service. While their tasks are essentially spiritual and therefore beyond the real understanding of human minds, you will perhaps grasp something of their ministry to mortals if it is explained that these angels are entrusted with the task of preparing the ascendant sojourners on Salvington for their last transition in the local universe, from the highest Morontia level to the status of newborn spirit beings. As the mind planners on the mansion worlds help the surviving creature to adjust to and make effective use of the potentials of Morontia mind, so do these seraphim instruct the Morontia graduates on Salvington regarding the newly attained capacities of the mind of the spirit. And they serve the ascendant mortals in many other ways.
So what do you think they call them? Spirit coordinators?
Because they are.
Because that's what they are. They're on that last level before you become a first stage spirit, right? So they help to coordinate your thoughts, your actions, everything from the Morontia existence into the spiritual existence, right? And so they help you transcend your mind from the Morontia mind to what? The cosmic mind, right? Because remember, when you leave Salvington, you no longer have the influence of what? The local universe mother spirit. So you don't have the 7 adjutants anymore, right? So you step into the spiritual aspect, and at that point as first stage spirits, who's your influence? Then your influence is the cosmic mind, who comes from one of the master spirits through the infinite spirit. Okay, makes sense?
Yes, it does.
All right. Okay, Gary, I think you're back up again.
Okay, the assistant teachers. The assistant teachers are the helpers and associates of their fellow seraphim, the teaching counselors. They are also individually connected with the extensive educational enterprises of the local universe, especially with the 7-fold scheme of training operatives on the mansion worlds of the local systems. A marvelous core of this order of seraphim functions on Urantia for the purpose of fostering and furthering the cause of truth and righteousness.
And they're busy bees on this planet, aren't they? Yeah.
Have they got to Russia yet?
I don't know. You have to talk to them about that. I don't know. All right. So these are called assistant teacher. It also mentions here the extensive educational enterprise of the 7-fold training on the 7 mansion worlds. You remember when we talked about the years and years ago, probably don't remember by now, but on the 7 mansion worlds, there's a specific concepts that we are to learn on each of the 7 worlds, right? So as we progress, we have to learn all 7 of these concepts and this 7-fold scheme of training before we go on to the next world and to the next world and to the next world, right? So these assistant teachers help us in this process, okay? And their concepts is about truth and righteousness. So when you get to the system capital, hopefully we will be more in tune with what is truth and righteousness, right? Not selling out like we do on this planet, right? For money, right? Okay. The transporters. This is an interesting group. Rodney, would you take the transporters?
Yes, all groups of ministering spirits have their transport corps, angelic orders dedicated to the ministry of transporting those personalities who are unable of themselves to journey from one sphere to another. The 5th group of the superior seraphim are headquartered on Salvington and serve as space traversers to and from the headquarters of the local universe. Like other subdivisions of the superior seraphim, some were created as such, while others have risen from the lower or less endowed groups.
Okay, think about this. When you get to mansion world number 1, you don't automatically get wings to fly to mansion world number 2, do you? It doesn't happen that way, right? Or mansion world number 3, or so on and so forth. You still have to use the angelic transport to go from one planet or one sphere to another. And this is the case all the way through the Morontia existence, okay? So this is what these transport seraphim do. And they show a picture here. This is a transport seraphim, superior seraphim, that can take you from Salvington to Uversa, or Adentia to Salvington, or Jerusalem to Salvington, or Urantia to Salvington, or the system headquarters, either one, right? So once you get there, when you want to go somewhere, you're going to have to book passage on one of these Seraphic transporters. Now, think of it this way. These things come and go through the circuits constantly, all the time. And why would they use a circuit to transport from one place to another?
Well, they would have to have a dedicated lane.
Passway, right? Because if they didn't, they'd run into each other, right? I mean, from planet to planet. Yeah, it has to be organized, right? All right, and then they're going to talk a little bit more about these. Let's talk about the energy range here, all right? Jane, would you take the next one?
The energy range of Seraphim is wholly adequate for local universe and even for super universe requirements, but they could never withstand the energy demands entailed by such a long journey as that from Uversa to Havona. Such an exhaustive journey requires the special powers of a primary Seraphim of transport endowments. Transporters take on energy for flight while in transit and recuperate personal power at the end of the journey.
So they use up energy to do this, right?
The energy,
like, I guess just like a spaceship would take gas. Yeah, yeah.
I
So,
was thinking
and
more,
they cannot.
Go ahead, Roger.
No, go ahead.
I was thinking more of a rechargeable battery, but whatever.
Yeah, I mean, well, obviously they can recharge in transit, to certain points, but they cannot take in enough energy. They don't have the capability of going from Uversa to Havona. That's a really long journey. And so to do that, you have to have a primary Seraphim, which is super universe level angel, right? What we're talking about is local universe angels. Okay, so they would be capable of transporting to the local universe to the super universe headquarters. That's as far as they could go. But for anything past the super universe, like a Havona or Paradise, you would have to have either a primary Seraphim or a super universe angel of transport capability, right? For a long, long journey. That's why they talk about when you get ready to go from Havona to Paradise the first time, they talk about it being a long sleep. They don't say exactly how long, but in the regular universe, after you leave this planet, time is no essence, is it? If it takes 100,000 years to get there, that's okay. It might. You know, so it's all relative at that point. So that's why they talk about it being the long sleep to Paradise. They put you to sleep. It's a long, long journey. But when you wake up, it's just as if you just went to sleep, even though it may have taken 100,000 years. Make sense? Yeah. Kind of interesting. All right. Let's go on. Letch, would you take the next one? Even on Salvington.
Okay. Even on Salvington, ascending mortals do not possess personal transit forms. Ascenders must depend upon seraphic transport in advancing from world to world until after the last rest of sleep on the inner circle of Havona and the eternal awakening on Paradise. Subsequently, you will not be dependent on angels for transport from universe to universe.
Okay, so once you make it to Paradise, right? Once you make that final journey, you will be capable of transporting yourself when you become a finaliter.
Holy mackerel. That's when we get wings.
That's when we get wings, as they say, you know. Now, interesting, this always fascinated me, this part of this paper, because you think about it, they talk about student visitors, right, to this planet. How do you think they get here?
They would have to use these guys.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
They don't talk about spaceships, do they?
No.
No.
They don't. They talk about transport Seraphim. So it makes you wonder, one thing makes you wonder, we got two possibilities going on here. When we see all these UFOs flying around, there's two possibilities. One, they actually are some sort of spaceship, a transport from another planet, right? Number two is, what if these lights we see zipping around and stuff, what if these are transport Seraphim? You know, you ever think of that?
Yeah, I do.
Well, I got one
know?
question. If they're lights that are transport you know what I'm trying to say.
Yeah.
Why do they go in a zigzag direction? What you would think they go zoop.
I have no idea, Gary. I'm dumbfounded. I don't know.
I don't
You
know
know,
either.
it could be both. I mean,
Yeah.
both classes. I'm at the understanding that they transport. It would be from the Morontia level up
Yeah.
to spirit, even the
Right.
spirit. So these transport angels, it doesn't say that they use a vehicle.
No. It talks about, it talks about in this paper how they transport people, you know, how their wings close, you know, the friction shields close over the beings to protect them, right?
Yeah.
But it sounds like to me that this transport they're talking about is only in the Morontia form, right? Because you can't transport human beings, so they'd have to be Morontia beings. But it would make sense to me if they're transporting Morontia beings to this planet, that transport them to the Archangel headquarters or wherever they're taking off from directly, and then they would have to reassemble their Morontia form on this planet so they could visit, right? Makes sense. So
Well-
that would discount, the whole point of this is this, that would discount the possibility that all these little lights we see flying around in the cosmos are not what? Transport angels. Because the transport angels wouldn't have any reason to zip over a mountain and stop dead center and then take off again really fast, would they?
That's right. That's what I was trying to say, Gabe,
Yeah.
I guess.
That's what I'm just trying to bring to light. So more than likely, if these being interdimensional beings or whatever they are that's popping in and out of our existence in ships or whatever they are, must be from other planets that are humanoid in form. Make sense? Because
And
they
then-
just don't act like transport angels, you know?
One more question.
Yeah.
Are the transport seraphim, are they who transported the tree of life from Indentia?
You would think so. Rodney,
that-
you would think that would be the only way it could get here, unless they actually had some kind of physical vehicle that they brought it in. But if they did that, we know it would take 400,000 or 500,000 years to get here, right? You know, they couldn't transport it like they do a human being or a being. The other thing is because the bush that they brought from Adentia or from the system headquarters, right, had to be of a physical form, and we know anything of a physical form with even within a transport seraphim does what? Disintegrates, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I'm spending a lot of time breaking all this thing down, but these things, you know, they tell us about, we have to figure out how they're working, right? So that makes you wonder this. When our planet, let's say 1 million years ago, when our planet was ready to send the Calligasser 100 1 million years ago, they knew in 500,000 years they were going to bring 100 beings from our system capital, right? So they planned that 1 million years before it came. If that's the case, they probably planned bringing the tree of life 1 million years before it came. So if that's the case, they may have brought it in a physical vehicle of some kind and left 500,000 years before it got here 500,000 years ago. You follow me?
What would they be doing during 500,000 years?
We don't know. It could be some kind of mechanical transport that doesn't need a human, a being in it, right? They may set it up in the thing and type in something, say, this is where you're going, and it goes off on its way. And, you know, when it gets the other end, somebody's there to, you know, take it out.
Well, our military has vehicles like that.
Yeah,
They can actually
it'd be like a drone,
But
right?
it would need light, water, nutrients,
Yeah.
and
Well-
probably
They would have to keep it alive for 500,000 years, Rodney, right? So all that would have to be planned into doing it, right?
unless it was more locally. I mean, it came
Yeah.
from there originally,
Well, it could be frozen too.
closer.
You know, they could freeze it, bring it back to life. Yeah, Jane, what was you going to say?
Why couldn't it be a seed?
Could be a seed. We don't know.
Yeah, we don't
You know.
know. Good point.
Could very well be a seed brought here and grown, right? Could very
Good.
well.
You know, regarding UFOs, in my life experiences, I've seen 4 or 5 of them on different occasions. And some of them were glowing orbs of light.
Yeah.
It makes me think that those might have been, the seraphic transports. The others had a distinctive classic flying saucer form, which makes me think
vehicle. Some kind of vehicle, right? Even the little orbs that you see that are not just light, they're actually look like an orb stuff. Those look like some kind of vehicle. But the orbs of light you're talking about, that looks like some kind of celestial being or something outside the physical state.
Exactly.
And the fact that it pops in and out of our dimension so easily, it makes you think that it's some other sort of dimensional state, right?
Yeah.
It really does. It's fascinating. Okay, let's get back to the paper here. All right. Okay, so we know that until we get to paradise, we won't be able to transport ourselves, right? All right, and let's go on to the next one. Lech, I think you're up. Did you just read, Lech? You did? Okay.
Yeah,
Diane.
I did. Yeah.
Okay. All right. I think we're on 211 there. Here.
The process of being in
Seraphim.
Seraphim is not unlike the experience of death or sleep, except that there is an automatic time element in the transit slumber. You are consciously unconscious during seraphic rest, but the thought adjuster is wholly and fully conscious. In fact, exceptionally efficient, since you are unable to oppose, resist, or otherwise hinder creative and transforming work.
So since you're totally unconscious, then the thought adjuster is able to do things and help you out while you're in transit that you can't do otherwise because your mind is in the way. Right?
Okay.
So that's why they're saying you're consciously unconscious. In other words, you have no conscious.
I'm unconscious.
Consciously unconscious. Yeah. So when you go to sleep, you're asleep. You're out. When you wake up, it's if nothing's happened, right?
That's a good message.
Yeah, it's immediate. Right. It's kind of like getting knocked out for an operation. You go to sleep, you don't remember anything. 2 seconds later, it seems like you wake up and you've been out, but you don't know how long you've been out, right? No consciousness of time. That's the closest thing I can think of that it's like. Okay. Gary, would you take the next one?
One in Seraphim, you go to sleep for a specific time, and you will awake at the designated moment. The length of a journey when in transit sleep is immaterial. You are not directly aware of the passing of time. It is as if you went to sleep on a transport vehicle in one city, and after resting in peaceful slumber all night, awakening in another in distant metropolis. You journeyed while you slumbered, and so you take the flight through space in Seraphim. Thank you. In Seraphim, while you rest, sleep. The transit sleep is induced by the liaison between the adjuster and the seraphic transporter.
Okay, so the transporter in liaison with your adjuster puts you to sleep, just like that. You're out, Okay, and you go to sleep at a specific time when you go to the angel, and then you awake at a specific moment when you get there, right? You're not awake any other time. So you won't see yourself buzzing down to the planet, will you? Because you won't be awake, right? Or buzzing across the universe. So these things you see on Star Trek where all the stars are going by, that don't happen in real life, right? All right. Okay. Rodney, would you take the next one?
Yes. The angels cannot transport combustion bodies, flesh and blood, such as you now have, but they can transport all others, from the lowest Morontia to the higher spirit forms. They do not function in the event of natural death. When you finish your earthly career, your body remains on this planet. Your thought adjuster proceeds to the bosom of the Father, and these angels are not directly concerned in your subsequent personality reassembly on the identification mansion world. There, your new body is a Morontia form, one that can in Seraphim. You, quote, sow a mortal body in the grave. You, quote, reap a Morontia form on the mansion worlds.
Okay, so we see here that your flesh and blood body can't be transported, can it? Impossible. That's all there is to it. And so when you die, your guardian angel does not take what? Your body,
Body.
right? No way, no how, right? The thought adjuster takes your personality or who you are and goes to the Father, right? Your guardian angel takes your transcript of who you are, all your memories, goes to Salvington or whatever it is you get judged, and through reflectivity, you get judged by the Ancients of Days. Okay, if you're found salvageable, then 3 days later, you awaken on the mansion world with a new Morontia body, and they put all of you back together. Your thought about adjusters back and your personalities back instilled in this new body, along with what they call your soul. Okay, so the thought adjuster assures that the person that you awaken as is the same exact person that you were when you died. Okay, the guardian angel guarantees that by your transcript. And guess who else is there when you wake up? An archangel. Why is an archangel there? Because the archangel has a duplicate of your transcript, right? So the archangel guarantees that the transcript they put back in this Morontia body matches the personality that the thought adjuster brought back, and your soul is back together and complete in this Morontia form. So the guardian angel guarantees the transcript, and the archangel guarantees the transcript also that the guardian angel has brought. Make sense?
Okay, then
So-
what we're saying then, when we wake up, we will have 2 guardian angels,
Yes,
correct?
right,
We will have our thought adjusters.
right.
Our soul will be reunited with all the previous.
Hang on, Gary, you just bleeped out on me there. Say it again. After your
Okay.
soul will be reunited. What again?
With all the previous,
Mhm.
you know, okay. And we'll also have the spirit of truth, I believe it is.
The what?
The spirit of truth that Jesus sent to us, Michael sent to us after his crucifixion. Am I
No, you'll
correct
have you'll have a archangel there. The spirit of truth will have nothing to do with it. Neither will the Holy Spirit. This is all a physical reassembly, right?
there? Okay. So the spirit of truth and the whatever it was.
The
Are-
Holy Spirit doesn't get involved in this. No.
Okay, when do they reattach? When do
They are automatically there when you awaken. It's like a you can think of it as a circuit you can't escape. right? So when you awaken, you will already be reinserted into the spirit of truth and the Holy Spirit automatically.
Okay. Okay, I see it somewhat, yes. Okay.
Yeah.
We're multifaceted individuals, aren't we?
It's very complicated, but when they explain it this way in the thing, your body doesn't go, right? Everything that makes you who you are is not physical, is it? Your mind
No.
is not physical. It's part of the mind circuits, right? Everything is above physical. We're just a superimposition on the physical, right?
Yeah.
So when you get to the mansion worlds, you might have hair again, right? Could have a beard, may not have a beard, may be pretty ugly, fat, thin, who knows? No, that's just the way it is, right?
Somebody once put it in such a way that your brain, in effect, is like an antenna to the spiritual world, the energies of the spiritual world.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it is, if you look at it that way. All right, we're at 6:59, so I guess we're going to have to stop there. We'll take up the recorders next time. A lot of stuff, huh?
Mm-hmm.
A lot of stuff, a lot to look forward to. Let's have a little prayer. Let's have a short one. Somebody say a short one. Jane, how about saying a short one for us tonight?
Okay.
All right.
Beloved Father, we give you thanks for this hour that we have spent learning. We thank you for Roger. We thank you for the inspiration that is given to him, that is passed on to us. We do our best to learn, and we know that you're generous and merciful, and that we have plenty of time to fully integrate everything that we're trying to understand here. But most of all, we give you thanks for Jesus of Nazareth, Michael of Nebadon. We thank you, we love him, and we give thanks to each and every one of us that you have created. And we thank you for all the blessings you bestow on us. And we praise your holy name. And we are forever grateful and thankful for being created in such a perfect creation. Amen.
Amen.
That's beautiful.
Beautiful prayer.
Beautiful, beautiful.
Jane.
Very beautiful.
And thank you out in Facebook land for joining us. Please come see us again, and all y'all out in YouTube too. Let me stop the Facebook.
Thank you, Roger.
You're
Okay.
welcome.
Welcome back,
Hope you're-
Roger. You're